Okay, I'm going to run through an example of solving an equation using the quadratic formula. So this is the basic quadratic formula. We have negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and all of that over 2a. So this plus and minus thing in the middle is what seems to give people the most problems. But don't be confused by that. All that means is that this is just two equations. This means that it's negative b plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, and it's negative b minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now remember we said that if you had a quadratic equation, which is one that has x squared, that means you're looking for two solutions. Well, this gives you your two solutions. So I'm of course a big fan of splitting all of this up. I do negative b over 2a. So negative b over 2a. That could be anything. And then I go through and I pull out this stuff that's in the square root. This is our b squared minus 4ac. That's called our discriminant. There were different notes over that, so I'm not going to go over that here too much. It's just the only thing I will say is if that's positive, that means you're taking a square root of a positive number, so you're going to get two real solutions. If it's negative, means you're going to take the square root of a negative number. We're going to end up with imaginary numbers, so that's going to give us two non-real numbers, which are complex numbers. Okay, so I do that, and then once I get that, whatever I get from there, I'm calling it triangle here, I'm going to take the square root of that and then divide it by 2a, and that gives me, let's say, a square. So all we do with that then is we know that we want two answers. Well, our first answer is going to be our cloud plus our square. Our second one is our cloud minus our square. I'm using squares and triangles and clouds just to be abstract. This is just telling us that whatever we get from the first part, we're going to add or subtract it with whatever we get from the third part, and that's going to give us our answer. Okay, let me copy this over to the next page. Okay, here's our quadratic formula. Let's say we have this. Let's say we have f of x equals 2x squared plus 3x plus 5. So we're going to run through this as an example. So the first thing we need to do is pick out our A, B, and our C. Well, our A is just a 2. Our B is a 3, right? Because that's the number that's out in front of the x. Oops. Our B is not x. Our B is 3. There we go. Our C is just that number that's out there by itself. So our C is a 5. So those are the three numbers that we're going to plug into our formula. So the first thing we want to do is negative b over 2a. So our b was a 3, so we're going to go, okay, negative b over 2a. So that gives us negative 3 over 2 times 2. So that's negative 3 over 4. That's our cloud. So that's going to be our first part of our answer. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do our b squared minus 4ac. So our b squared, our b again was 3. So b squared is going to be 9. So let's put a 9 here. And then we want 4ac, so let's see, minus 4 times a times c. So we have minus 4 times 2 times our c, which was a 5. Well, 2 times 5 is 10, times 4 is 40, so this is 9 minus 40. That gives us a negative 31. Okay, so we know right there we're going to be taking the square root of a negative number, and that's okay, we don't mind. So we're going to square root that then. So we have square root of negative 31 divided by 2a. Well, a is 4. A is 2, so 2 times 2 is 4. So the square root of negative 31, we break it into two parts. This is negative 1 times 31 over 4. So then this is, we're going to pull our square root of negative 1 is just I. So we're going to pull I out times square root of 31 over 4. So, and that's our little square. So our answers then, our first one, so x1 equals negative 3 over 4. And we're going to have plus I times the square root of 31 over 4. If we were doing this in the calculator, you could totally put that in. You'd get I times some decimal. Okay, and then we get x2 is like 5 point something, equals negative 3 over 4 minus I times the square root of 31 over 4. Those are our answers. Let's do another one real quick. Let me paste our quadratic formula out here again. You should know it by now, but that's okay. Okay, let's say you have f of x equals, let's say you have x squared plus 6x plus 5. Okay, so your a is 1, b is 6, and c is 5. So the first thing we do is we want negative b over 2a. That is negative 6 divided by 2 times 1. So that's negative 3. Make that my little cloud. Next we're going to go b squared minus 4ac. Well, b is 6, so 6 squared is 36. Minus 4 times 1 times 5. Well, 4 times 5 is 20, right? So we get 36 minus 20, and that gives us 16. That's our triangle. So now we're going to go square root of our triangle. So square root of 16 over 2a. So that's 2 times 1. So square root of 16 is 4 divided by 2 equals 2. That's our little square. So then our two answers, x1, is going to be our first, which was negative 3. So we have negative 3 plus whatever's in our square, which is a 2. So we have negative 3 plus 2. Well, negative 3 plus 2 is just negative 1. And our x2 is negative 3 minus 2. So that's negative 5. So our two answers are x equals negative 1, x equals negative 5. These we call our roots, we call our zeros, and we call our solutions. Roots, zeros, and solutions are the same thing. So root, 0, and a solution. These are all the same thing. And this is all where the graph crosses or touches the x-axis. So these are the same. On the test, you can see all three of those. They just mean the same thing. We're just solving for x. Okay, so I hope that helped. Feel free to rewind and pause and check it out as many times as you need to. Just know that we're picking out our ABC and we're plugging them directly into the formula. That's all we're doing. Okay, good luck.